and welcome back to the Over and Back Classic NBA podcast. I am Jason, and with me as usual is Rich. Hello, Rich.
What's going on?
Oh, not a whole lot. You know, it's exciting times in the NBA. There's a whole lot going on, so fun things to talk about. Of course, we're going to be reflecting on something we never really delved into that much before, but really an important part of the NBA's history is the buildings in which the games are played in.
Yeah, no, and it's actually pretty interesting. The idea kind of came into my head as you know, we're closing down on the Bradley Center for the Milwaukee Bucks home. And in the coming years, we have a few other. I mean, Oracle obviously is a pretty famous one that's going to be going by the wayside here in a year or so. So I thought it would be cool to kind of look back at some of the arenas that were popular in the league or whatever. And I'm sure we could do a deeper dive, and I'm sure we could just go nuts with some of the stuff. This is going to be kind of just a little overview of, you know, arena changes, of recent vintage arena changes that are coming up, and then a little bit about historic arenas. And now, you know, with Bradley going and the Oracle soon to follow, like what's sort of left, or who are the old, you know, arenas left, because it's actually far fewer than you probably imagine. And also I want to kind of look at historic trends of how often do teams change arenas, and are we in a boom period for arena switches, are we in a down period or whatever, just kind of checking out a little bit of the movement of you know, teams in their arenas.
Yeah, it is a fascinating subject, and I mean the origins of the BAA, you know, which merged with the NBL to become the NBA. I mean, the reason they formed a league was, hey, we have these buildings and we don't really have enough dates to fill them, so let's start a basketball league to, you know, make sure that we have actual events that will be played in our arenas. So yeah, if you need to build it for them to come, so it is absolutely important. Maybe underappreciated part of the game, but obviously, you know, there are some venues that are better for basketball than others. Oracle has certainly, you know, been a very loud arena. You know, really great home fans for the Warriors. A really great atmosphere that they've had for so long, even in many years in which they were not a very good team. So yeah, that's obviously, we'll talk about more about that, but that's obviously going to be a huge shift for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And having been to Oracle, I mean, I'm a big fan of you know, Bradley Center's all right. I've been there a bunch of times. It's okay. It doesn't really, I don't know. It's fine.
It's
you know
no
what I mean?
Mecca, obviously. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah. The Mecca's pretty sweet. I really wanted to go. They had a game earlier this year where it was at the Mecca. The one that was like the Celtics and the Bucks or whatever at the Mecca. I really wanted to go, and I like got very close to just like leaving work early and driving all the way up to Milwaukee. And I was like, what am I doing? No, I can't do that. I really regret that I didn't do it. But no, the Mecca was awesome. But yeah, the Oracle, I mean, that's an arena that it's just because it's just constructed differently than any modern arena is, because now modern arenas are all obviously for luxury boxes and sort of stuff, and multi-purpose, and there's just a different look and feel to a lot of, like, I go to the majority of my games at the United Center, which is fine, it's okay, but man, if you're in the 300 level, you might as well be, you know, a mile away from the action or whatever. Whereas Oracle, we were in like second to last row maybe in the Oracle, and we were there, and you still felt like you were right on top of the action, because there's only the two floors. You got your bottom floor or whatever, and then you have your second, you know, tier. As the United Center, there's 3 tiers. In between those tiers, there's skybox. So like, you're just keep going farther and farther away, and you get less of that sound as well. It doesn't kind of carry. So yeah, going just did. And I went to a Warriors Bulls game when they were, I mean, the Warriors were, this is, you know, Steph Curry was there, but it was like they hadn't quite broke out yet, and it was still, like you said, they weren't a great team, but it was so loud in there. So I can't imagine what it sounds like now, or what it sounded like, you know, as they were sort of emerging as an NBA champion. But they've also mentioned that some of the crowd dynamics have sort of changed at Oracle as well. You know, as things are going on, it's a big reason why they're going to move here in a little bit. But yeah, Bradley I've been to a few times, and it's okay, it's fine. But yeah, I've gone to a few NBA arenas, and yeah, it is varied how they are, but they are starting to get a little bit samey. Or they were for a while, but I feel like the Golden One Center seems like it's pretty cool. I haven't been there, but seen some pictures of that one, the one in Sacramento. And then a few of the other newer arenas, even this Chase Center, the one that the Warriors are going to move to, looks a little different than your run-of-the-mill basketball arena. Because there was a while there where everything, like Staples Centers is fine, but it just looks like the most generic, you know, early 2000 basketball arena. It's like there's nothing unique about it. It's just kind of, it's fine. Like it just works as a normal arena, but there's nothing that really stands out or anything really unique about it either.
Oh, which NBA arenas have you been to? I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm trying to go. Yeah, I have to look at the actual list right now to see. Let me do a little quick.
Here, I'll tell you mine while you're thinking about yours.
Yeah.
So I've been to Phillips Arena in Atlanta. That's the one I've been to the most times because I lived in Atlanta for a few years. Very convenient to go to games there. I've been to the Q in Cleveland. I've been to the Pacers Arena. I was about. Oh no, and I've
Bankers
been
Life Fieldhouse now. I went when it was Conseco Fieldhouse, but I think it's Bankers Life now.
I think it was Conseco when I went there, but yes, and I've been to the Smoothie King Center because I saw Kobe's like I don't know fifth to last game or something.
Right, you did that. Yeah, you lined up your wedding with Kobe's,
yes,
farewell tour. Yeah,
yeah. I found out recently that my wife apparently was not very happy with me abandoning her that night. She seemed okay with it at the time. She seemed a little bored with me, but I don't. So anyway, that
when you have a chance to go to the Smoothie King Center, you got to go.
That's a fair point. So. Yeah, gotta. Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, far less. I'm looking at the arenas. I've definitely been to far less than I thought. I've obviously gone to the United Center. Oh, sorry, were you not done with your list?
No, that's it in terms of actually seeing games. I never went to, even though I live like within a decent drive of Detroit. I never made it to a Palace of Auburn Hills, but yeah, that's about it. And I've been to Richfield Coliseum, the Cavs' former arena, but for a concert, not for a actual game.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I've just been. I'm looking at the list now. So I've been to United Center. I went to whatever the Amway Arena. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Now it's the Amway Center, whatever, the one in Orlando. Mm-hmm. I went there. Bankers Life Fieldhouse. I went there when it was Conseco Fieldhouse, and I think that might be it. And then obviously the Oracle, as I mentioned. I tend to go to more baseball stadiums than I do basketball stadiums. It just depends, when I'm traveling and whatnot. And it's also it's a little bit easier to justify to the lady, hey, let's go to a baseball game, and you can be outside and drink beer as opposed to like, hey, let's go inside and watch a basketball game. But I do want to check out the Pepsi Center in Denver. And I'm going to be in LA in April, so I might maybe try to swing a trip to Staples Center, but we'll see what ends up happening there. But yeah, I can't believe that's it. I feel like I've been to. Oh, I've also been to whatever the hell it's Talking Stick Resort Arena, but was it U.S. Airways, the one in Phoenix?
Oh yeah,
it was U.S. Airways. I forget what it was called.
Sure, whatever it was.
It definitely was not the Talking Stick Resort Arena. No, I would have had a field day with that. But I think that's it for me. Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah. And obviously the United Center. I don't know if you actually mentioned the United Center.
I did, yeah.
Okay, yes, there you go. So I missed that. So yeah, well, there you go. So
the Rosemont Horizon, but that doesn't count for anything.
Yeah,
I've been there too many times, Steve.
Yeah,
I go there every.
Sure. Yeah. Do you have a favorite among those?
Definitely the Oracle. I mean, that was just a really cool experience. And like, obviously, it's missing some of the modern amenities that you get at some arenas, but I don't really care. I care about once you get into your seat and you're watching the game or whatever. I don't really care if the concourse doesn't look pretty or, whatever. Like, it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the actual, like, physical in your seat, watching the game and hearing the game, it was just incredible being there live. So, yeah, it's going to suck when that goes. And, I mean, the Chase Center looks like it's all right, but yeah, the Oracle just had, like, it was like, whoa, this is pretty cool. And it comes across on even, on TV when you watch it. And when you watch older games as well, you see the older type arenas, the ones that are a little bit more close, a little more compact. You just hear them. And that's like nowadays, crowds obviously still get loud and stuff, but they don't have that same sort of boisterous loudness because of these big arenas, this noise just kind of goes up or it just kind of goes everywhere. Whereas, Oracle's one and there was, a number of arenas where it was just so loud. I mean, the Chicago Stadium is one that's pretty famous for that too before the United Center. That would just be like raucous. And like anytime things were going on, like it was so loud in that arena just because it is so close. Richfield Coliseum is one I remember as well being always super loud.
Yeah, and there's competing noise too with just all the in arena stuff and I mean that's obviously for 30, 40 years now that stuff's been going on. But that's when you watch a game in the 70s, you're really relying on the crowd for the enthusiasm and for the noise, and you didn't have a whole lot. You had an organ playing or whatever, but not much else. So I think crowds kind of had to keep that energy up. Where now you can substitute that with certain other things too, and it creates a different sort of vibe. And obviously we're way past that, but it's the arenas combined with the how the crowd is expected to act or whatever that totally changes the vibe of NBA games.
Absolutely. So let's get into the Bradley Center here a little bit. Again, we're in the final few weeks of the Bradley Center as the home of the NBA's Milwaukee Bucks. Arena opened October 1st, 1988 with an exhibition hockey game between, of course, the Chicago Blackhawks and the Edmonton Oilers. Because when you open up an arena in Milwaukee, you definitely have the Blackhawks and the Edmonton Oilers. But I guess they didn't have an NHL team, so it's Chicago, next best thing.
Yeah.
So it's currently one of the oldest active NBA arenas, only behind the Madison Square Garden in New York City and the Oracle Arena in Oakland. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But yeah, some other stuff in terms of that. So obviously you have the Bradley Center on the way out. Coming up soon, the Chase Center. We mentioned a little bit. The brand new Chase Center will replace Oracle Arena as the Golden State Warriors' home arena. This will also be a historic time, too, because the Warriors will be moving across the bay from Oakland back to San Francisco. And the franchise, so they changed the name from the San Francisco Warriors to the Golden State Warriors prior to the 71-72 season in order to suggest that the team, represented the entire state of California. And at that time, they were doing games all over the place. And we've talked about that in our, I think, our 70s episodes of where, it was more of a statewide. They weren't just in one place. They'd have some games in Oakland, some in San Francisco. They would do some in I think San Jose. They did a few games as well. They were kind of bouncing all over the place a little bit here. So they go to the Golden State, lose kind of the San Francisco thing, and that year as well, almost all the games were played in Oakland. 6 were played in San Diego, none in San Francisco or Daly City, which is where the Cow Palace was. So the Oakland Arena became pretty much the team's exclusive home court by 1971, and then from then on, they've been kind of an Oakland team. But 47 years later, they're now on the way back to San Francisco for the first time. So kind of cool that's happening, but cool in one way and then cool. I mean, I enjoy that they're back in San Francisco, and that's kind of cool. I know the location where they're at, but there's something fun about going over to Oakland for like a basketball game and it being sort of their team versus now it's kind of San Francisco's team again, and it's going to be harder for anybody in Oakland to get over there. But given how ticket prices have gone in recent years, it's been hard for anybody from Oakland to even go to games in the first place. So
yeah, and kind of the negatives of that, of course, the shift in Oakland supported that team so well for so many years when they were bad, and now that they're obviously a dynasty and one of the premier teams, really the premier team in the league, and making so much money, now they're moving. When they weren't wanted, Oakland took them and accepted them, and the demographics of the different cities, they were the team of the have-nots for so long, and now that they're the team of the haves, they're going to an arena that is beautiful and going to make a lot of money, but is also like away from now definitely can't be afforded by anyone who isn't a millionaire pretty much. So that's a bummer. But obviously the arena is cool. Because the old arena actually dates back to '66, and the Warriors moved there full time in '72. But the Oakland Oaks played there for a couple seasons from the ABA. So they they were the ABA arena before they were the NBA arena.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then another arena quickly, and then we'll kind of get to some of the kind of the history and recent other changes. The Inglewood Basketball and Entertainment Center, and this one is still kind of an idea, but it's a proposed 18,000-seat arena to be located in Inglewood, California, for the Los Angeles Clippers. The plan is right now for it to be in 2024, but I don't know exactly what's going on, because that 2024 is when the Clippers lease with the Staples Center expires, so they would be presumably looking to go elsewhere, leave Staples Center. I assume that the Lakers would stay. I don't know exactly all the nuts and bolts of that. I imagine you wouldn't want to replace the Staples Center already, so it's probably just the Clippers kind of wanting their own home as well. So the planned arena is expected to be directly south of the under construction Los Angeles Stadium in Hollywood Park. So that's the future home of the Los Angeles Rams and the Los Angeles Chargers, because LA's got to have a lot of football teams at all times. So every time they do it, and then it fails miserably, and then they move again, and then they come back every 10 years. Oh, hey, LA football, great. And this year's not any exception. I think the Rams are playing in like a soccer stadium, or the Rams are playing in the LA Coliseum, and then the Chargers are playing in like some terrible like soccer arena, and like still nobody was coming, and it's whatever. It's a disaster. But anyway, public funds, yay. The planned arena is not without its detractors. The nearby Forum, the famous LA Forum, they're pretty close to where this Inglewood
they're in Inglewood as well.
Center. And they there's still a venue that's up and running. I mean, obviously they do concerts, they do stuff like that. They're obviously not hosting any major sports anymore, but they've sort of reworked to become like one of the premier concert venues in that area. Well, they're a little ticked that like, hey, now you're going to build like another arena right down the block that presumably will steal some business from us. So they're a little worried about that. So and the Forum, of course, that was home to the Lakers from 1967 until 1999, until they moved into the Staples Center, and the Clippers obviously played at the LA Sports Arena. But now it's going to be, again, this is just proposed. I don't think it's official, and we're definitely doing it. But there is definitely some pushback on this, and it might not happen. But at least we know there's a potential timetable of 2024 for this Inglewood Sports and Entertainment Complex.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's kind of a gap between. There's not really anything. We have the two new arenas that we're talking about, but beyond that, like, there's no one else has really seriously talked about. There's going to be kind of a gap between new arenas, because obviously, even if someone else decides to build something, it's going to be a while before we build anything new. And there's a couple. Mm-hmm. We'll look at it. There's a couple of interesting gaps between arenas being built in the NBA that I think are worth talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Some recent changes. Let's get over some of the more ones that we've seen as of late. 2017, of course, last season we saw or this season I should say, the Pistons moved from the Palace of Auburn Hills into the brand new Little Caesars Arena, close to the downtown, close to the city, close to everyone's at, and then every game you watch, there's like 1,000 people there. So it, I don't know, but hey, public funds, yeah. By the time it had closed as an NBA venue, the Palace was only one of 2 arenas which had not sold its naming rights to a corporate sponsor. The other one is Madison Square Garden, of course. So it's probably kind of cool. That was always something that they would always have it like the court would be sponsored by someone or something, but the arena was always the Palace of Auburn Hills, and it never changed. And that was always kind of cool. I always thought that was unique about that arena.
Yeah,
and it was widely considered to be the first of the modern style NBA arenas. So it had a large number of luxury boxes and really kind of led to the NBA arena boom in the 1990s, which is really cool because you look at it and it was kind of the first one, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit. There were arenas that sort of came later that just didn't work from the beginning because they were either like before or after the boom, or but for whatever reason the Palace of Auburn Hills was like right at a perfect time, and everybody kind of looked at that arena and went, ooh, that's nice, we need that, and sort of everybody else then kind of went that way, and the luxury suites was a huge thing for them, and they were all bought out like pretty quickly too. And I think that's one of their famous stats too, is that for almost the entire run of the Palace, like every single one of those luxury suites was bought, and so that was great for that arena and that team, of course. But they moved downtown to the Little Caesars Arena, but the major reason, just beyond the age of the arena, the Palace of Auburn Hills, was, of course, the location. The Palace was built in a time when people were moving to the suburbs, people were leaving the cities, going to the suburbs. But now, as more people move back to the city centers, they wanted to bring things back downtown, and that's what you're going to see kind of the growing trend. It obviously happened with baseball stadiums, and you're seeing it more and more with any NBA arena that's anywhere away from where the downtown or the populace is starting to kind of move back to that thing where for a while there, 60s, 70s, and 80s, it was all about getting as far away. You got even the Pontiac Silverdome in Detroit where the Pistons played some of their games way out there. The Richfield Coliseum, like you're saying, not necessarily downtown or whatever, whereas the Quicken Loans Arena is right downtown. I mean, there's numerous examples of these kind of arenas out in the suburbs. Then now everyone's kind of moving back into the city centers.
Yeah, and Detroit, I mean, is kind of the poster child of that larger trend of really, of white flight, of largely white populations moving away from the city, and eventually building the arena there, and the Palace of Auburn Hills. It was such. It's interesting because it's also. It's a sign of that, but it's also was very much a sign of the Pistons finally arriving as, they'd been in Detroit for so long and really been an also-ran team and generally not really very good up until at least the mid-'80s. And so it was finally a chance for them to be major league, and they really did find a nice home there in Auburn Hills. And so moving that back to Detroit it's cool because obviously it's kind of back to the city, and it's adding things, but also kind of taking away from Auburn Hills a little bit, which was a community that kind of had done really rallied around the Pistons, and also as the city kind of spread out was closer to what the city had been than previously. It was kind of a far-flung suburb initially, but as time moved on, it became more a part of the city. But interesting. I'm not sure if I mentioned it on the show, but a few months ago I sat on airplane next to Anthony Tolliver, and I talked to him briefly and asked him about how he felt about actually playing in Detroit and as opposed to Auburn Hills, and he said that they were excited about it. It was cool. It was nice to be in the vibe of the city. And then I asked him is it easier to get to the airport and travel and stuff? He said actually it's harder to do that because of where the airport is located. So not so good for that, but they were excited. I haven't checked in on it recently, but I know that the attendance was not particularly strong for the first few months of the season, and they're not particularly good, so that's part of it. The trade for Blake Griffin may have changed that, but so obviously it's a long-term thing. Maybe it'll end up working out really well for them, but that was a little disappointing to see.
Yeah, right now they're 19th in average attendance. Let me see where they are percentage-wise, because that's always a pretty fun one to look at, because obviously the overall numbers isn't too... Okay, so they are 29th in percentage. Not great. 82% for them. They're only... I regret to tell you, Jason, can you guess who is the dead last in percentage of...
I'm sure it's the Atlanta Hawks.
It's indeed the Atlanta Hawks.
It's hard. It's hard to get there from Atlanta. Atlanta, another one, but it's so spread out that people have a hard time getting to the downtown. It also had the trend of what the Braves did moving to the suburbs. 30 years after the Pistons did that is they're kind of the opposite of the trend for the most part. And,
yeah, right,
yeah,
sure.
right.
But, oh darn! All right, well, whatever.
Yeah.
So this of course was the Pistons moving back to Detroit, but Detroit proper out of Auburn Hills. Actually, the first time since 1974 that all four of the major Detroit sports teams, all the Detroit, it's kind of even if they're in the suburbs, everybody kind of call them Detroit, played in the city limits on a regular basis. And the first time since 1978 that the Pistons played in the city of Detroit on a regular basis as well. This also was the first time since 1961 that the Detroit Pistons and the Red Wings will now share the same arena. So that's kind of cool because they always had the Joe Louis Arena for the Red Wings, and then the Pistons would play at the Palace. So it's kind of cool that now they're kind of in the same arena as well. So brought it all into one. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. 2016, we also saw the Sacramento Kings moved from their longtime home, the Arco Arena, Power Balance Pavilion, the Sleep Train Arena. I don't know, just pick whatever.
Sleep Train Arena, baby. Yeah.
Sleep Train was always a pretty bad one. I'm an Arco man, but they have the new, obviously, state of the art Golden One Center, which actually looks like a really cool arena. I'd love to go there because it looks like they did some unique things about it, and I think it's one of the more techy arenas as well. So I'm kind of curious what that was. But one thing I did not really know, and I kind of found out doing the research of this, that was the second Arco Arena. There was actually the original Arco Arena, which was 1985 to 1988, was the Kings' original home. From when the franchise moved from Kansas City or whatever, and then that arena had a capacity of just 10,333 seats. So it's now like an office building. I just really want to go to see like what the inside of the office building was, because somehow it's like and you look at it too, and it just looks like a random office building. Like we've all worked in a building that looks like this, so I have no idea how it housed an NBA franchise for a few years. But just kind of give you an idea of how big that is. So you have 10,333 was the capacity of that original Arco Arena. Today's smallest arena, the aforementioned Smoothie King Center, it houses 16,000, a little under 17,000. And that's the smallest one. This one at 10,000. It's just nuts how that would happen. But Arco 2, the second Arco Arena, we talked about arenas at the beginning of the show, the ones that are really loud and ones, and this one gained a huge reputation for being just super loud and super devoted fan base as well. Obviously, people bring the cowbells, that certainly helps as well. But that was a team even when they were terrible, even in the worst of the years, they would always be raucous. They would always be there, and they would always sell out. And I always remember that being a cool thing. And then when they finally got good, obviously in the late '90s, early 2000s, then it just ramped up that atmosphere a ton more because it was like, oh, these devoted fans who have been here for years now finally get a good team or whatever. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, that gained a rep as being one of the louder arenas as well. And I think it actually broke like a decibel record or something like that, in the early 2000s. So it's kind of cool there. But the arena actually got its so there's in the retired numbers of the Golden One Center, there's a retired banner for the Arco Arena. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know. That didn't come up in our retired numbers show that we're going to do at some point. But yes, the arena got retired as well. So
yeah. Well, how nice for it. Yeah. So it's been a while since there had been an arena, before the two that we talked about, all the way back to 2010. So quite a long gap between there. Well, I guess Barclays Center was in 2012, but there was about a 5-year gap between those where new arenas had been built, and obviously Barclays was a new arena, bringing them from a completely different area as opposed to just building one in the same location or relatively close to the same location. But yeah, they moved from the Orlando Arena, also TD Waterhouse Center, and also known as the Arena in Orlando, and lastly the Amway Arena. So they a lot of name changes are there. They actually the old building, the history goes back before Orlando even had a team in the NBA in '86. Pat Williams, who had been a longtime GM throughout the league, was brought into the team as far as their bid was going, and knew obviously that having an arena already in construction would be critical for expansion as it was coming up, as the league was considering to add multiple teams. They ended up adding more teams than they expected because Orlando and Miami both had such great bids. The city allowed construction to begin before there was even a study of the impact on the area was filed with the state and regional planners. So they fast-tracked that for sure. Ground broke in January '87, which was 4 months before the Board of Governors made their final vote bringing Orlando into the league. And one issue with that is that because they tried to get a head start on the arena, the building was not it was pretty much out of date by the time that it opened because it didn't have like the luxury boxes and the amenities that a lot of the other buildings that were being built at the time, the Palace, as we mentioned, going
right, we
on.
talked about the Palace. Yeah, the Palace of Auburn Hills was like, hey, luxury boxes are cool, and this arena was built without that as a thought or whatever. And it was like if they had just waited a year, they would have maybe been like, hey, this Palace thing is great and it's making a ton of money for them. That's how we're going to build our arena. But they kind of were really eager to get out ahead of the game, and it ended up being a big detriment to them.
Yeah, and they might not have got a team if they hadn't done that. So
right, so it was kind of this weird. Yeah, they were kind of in a weird spot here. Like, well, we needed to prove that, and this happens a lot of times. One of the famous ones as well is like Tropicana Dome or whatever. I forget what the hell it is. I think it's still the Tropicana in Tampa Bay or whatever in St. Petersburg for the Tampa Bay Rays. Well, that thing was built in the mid '80s because they were going to try to get the San Francisco Giants to come over with the Chicago White Sox, and they just got a thing up as quick as possible. Like, hey, here's an arena, here you go, or here's a stadium, and it's like a terrible place to watch a baseball game. It's like a horrendous arena, and then the Rays are there, but it's just like, well, we're just in this horrible arena that just doesn't exist for any reason other than it was like kind of rushed to get out there to try to get in for a bid or whatever. So that's where you kind of always get these issues, and it kind of from the beginning, from the get go, this arena kind of ran into that problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, by 94, there already was talk about renovations. And then in 2001, the Magic really pushed for a new arena, which caused a lot of tensions between the team and the city, because obviously the city doesn't want to necessarily build another arena already, a publicly financed one, so soon after the last. The team did threaten to look elsewhere, and but eventually things were settled. The team was kind of between the Penny and Shaq and the Dwight Howard eras, and we're losing, or at least claiming to be losing, a lot of money. So eventually that all kind of got settled, and a new arena was built, and everything has been great for the Magic ever since.
Yeah, they're obviously a premier franchise that's raking in the dough and winning championships left and right. So it's great.
It's funny. The arena opened right at the end of the tail of their really good run there, and they haven't, unfortunately, not been very competitive since.
No, that's
a bummer
good
for them. Yeah. But.
So a little bit of look at like, are we in a high time or a low time for the changes in arenas? And the way I did this, I tried to just do teams that not necessarily moved, more or less like gotten a new arena like that because I feel like it's a little bit, if you try to add like move into it and stuff like that, it gets a little too messy. Like you mentioned, the kind of the Brooklyn Nets Barclays Center thing, I wouldn't necessarily consider that a new, that's kind of, they moved to a new arena, yes, but like I kind of looked at established team getting a new arena in their home city or whatever to try to kind of look at it, because I think that's sort of what we're trying to look at here a little bit more so than teams moving or relocating or whatever. Well, it's actually interesting. I guess we are in a high time because in 2010 so far, we have 9 that have happened, which isn't that much, but when you remember that obviously we still have a few more years in the 2010s, and then we're going to get up to 10 here in a little bit with the Chase Center. So they're at 9 right now. The 2000s had 10, so you had a lot of change there. The 1990s at 11, which kind of makes the most sense that there would be kind of a transformative, just change in that, that sort of decade, because that's when things, built in the 60s and the 70s were really kind of getting retrofitted and changed and altered or whatever. So that makes sense. 1980s had 10, and the 1970s had 10. So it's kind of interesting. It's like this almost perfect balance of like 10s and 11s, and again we're going to get up to 10 again with the Chase Center. So kind of fascinating there that it doesn't, other than the 90s being at 11, everything else is about at the 10s. So and Jason, you wanted to look at years with the most changes as well, because I think that's kind of fun to do as well.
Yeah, and leading in is 1999, which had a crazy amount of change. The Raptors moved out of the Sky Dome into the Air Canada Center. The Heat moved out of the original Miami Arena. The Pacers moved out of Market Square Arena. The Nuggets moved out of McNichols Arena. And the Lakers and Clippers both moved into the Staples Center from the Forum and the LA Sports Arena. And the Hawks moved from... They were in the Omni, and then they were in the Georgia Dome for a season or two, and then they eventually ended up at Phillips Arena, where they've been. So, and although they didn't have a team yet, the Smoothie King Center was also built that year in '99. So most of the arenas, or the majority, a lot of the arenas in the NBA date back to 1999. So, which is by far the most prominent year for NBA arenas. The only, what's that?
Oh yeah, no, so far and away, yeah. It's when you look at the other years. I mean, we're going to look at some of these, and it's 3, 5, or whatnot. But yeah, I mean 7 is just astronomical. So yeah, 1999, huge year for that.
The only years that really, that have the most otherwise are 88 and 75. Each have 3. The Kings moved out of the original Arco. The Pistons moved out of the Silver Dome, and the Bucks moved into the Bradley Center. You could also make it 5 if you count the Hornets and Heat, but that's a little bit of a different category. So, and then in 75, the Jazz moved out of the Municipal Auditorium. They were in the the famous dome in New Orleans. Why am I forgetting the name of it? Where the Saints played.
Well, Hulk Hogan also forgot the name too. It's the Superdome.
Yes, the Superdome. Thank you. Yes. Well, I'm in good company with Hulk Hogan there, so that's good. Right. And the Nuggets moved out of the Denver Arena Auditorium, and then the Rockets moved into the Summit. So, so outside of that, there really is not. There hasn't. 99 is by far the greatest year for that, which is interesting. Of course, that's the lockout year. So, I guess a lot of those places were waiting for the teams to really start playing. A lot of those arenas probably were counting on that, November, December NBA revenue to help them out. So that's sort of an interesting subplot of that. In our 90s series, we'll have to 20 years ago series, we'll have to dig into that a little bit.
Yeah, but it's pretty funny. If those darn owners would just make any money, these damn players are taking all the money, and these poor owners just can't make any money. Oh, wait, let's all build a brand new publicly financed arenas. This is great. Okay, thanks. But we'll take all the revenues. That's fine.
Right.
You do all the expense, we'll do all the revenue.
Exactly. It works out well.
Yeah, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you have a little bit. I mean, it was kind of tough, to try to judge the changing of arenas, because obviously you have in the '60s a lot of teams just played, a few games at this arena, a few games at this. That's kind of hard to judge. When I did this, I really looked at kind of full-time arenas or whatever, and I think that's probably a better way to judge it for the context of now, because it's a whole different animal in the '70s and the '60s, where you have teams playing a year in one place and a year in another place and a year in those aren't homes. Those are just places that will allow them to play basketball at their arenas or whatever. But you have the Sacramento Kings, obviously Kansas City, Omaha Kings. I mean, they were bouncing every year or whatever to a different spot or whatever, and a bunch of different teams would do that as well, where they play a year at a place, they play half of a year at one place, half a year at other. So it's really kind of a unique thing in the last 30 years, where teams have just played at their home, and they've had a home. To us, we sort of take that for granted, where it wasn't always the case. Where we talked about the Warriors, where they would play some games in San Jose and some in San Diego and some here and some in Daly City and then some in San Francisco and some in Oakland. So it's we kind of take for granted a team having a home and an established place to play.
Yeah, I mean, before the early '70s, maybe the late '60s, no one was building an arena for an NBA team. I mean, they were building arenas that NBA teams would be a part of, but no one was thinking, okay, the NBA was not important enough for anyone to be building an arena for it. Before at least the late '60s. So yeah, it's kind of a completely different mindset now as far as that goes. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the ages of the current arenas, I was a little surprised by this. There's only 3 arenas that are around before 1990, and 2 of them are going to be replaced soon. Oracle, going back to '66, is actually the oldest. Madison Square Garden, going back to '68, second oldest. And it actually also holds the record for the longest use for a single use for an arena. It has 50 years between '68 to 2018. It's been renovated since then, but it's been the home of the Knicks that entire time. But going back to the other point, I was kind of shocked that there was no other arenas actively being used that are older than that. The rest of them, the Target Center is next in 1990. So that's kind of crazy, to be honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that the Target Center is right next up there, but yeah, I mean, it is kind of weird how many of these new arenas got sort of changed around, and it's interesting that there are no teams that kind of build that into their legacy, and that's where I think it's a little different. Where obviously in baseball you have tons of different stadiums, but you still have some of your few legacy ones, your Wrigley Fields, your Fenway Parks. But then again, you have the Yankees who just don't care and build new Yankee stadiums all the time or whatever. So it is interesting, but yeah, there's never, other than Madison Square Garden, there's really not a team that's I doubt the Wolves. I mean, maybe in 20 years we talk about the Wolves being attached to the Target Center, but I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, so it's really just the Madison Square Garden. That's it. I mean, that's the only one that's really a legacy arena in the league, because obviously Oracle's on its way out, Bradley's on its way out, and I wouldn't consider those anywhere near that anyway. And obviously the Target Center now, at over 18 years old or whatever, 28 years old is not one again that is going to be, I mean, if it's around for another 10 years, that's fine, but I don't think anyone's going to be oh man, you can't knock down the Target Center. That's where all the memories were made. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's kind of interesting that there is not that same attachment.
Yeah, I don't think outside Madison Square Garden, and to an extent Oracle, because of just that's the one that kind of has the old school atmosphere still left. Yeah, everything else it's and maybe it has something to do with our ages, and maybe the fans of those teams probably have more specific attachments to those places than we might as general NBA fans. But that's really interesting. Just for the record, the buildings that have had the longest continuing continuous NBA arena use. Madison Square Garden, as we mentioned, from 68 to 2018. Next is a Boston Garden from 46 to 1995. Oracle is from 72 to what will be 2019, will be the last year there. And then the Forum in LA from 67 to 99. The Spectrum in Philadelphia from 67 to 96. The Palace of Auburn Hills from 88 to 2017. The Summit in Houston from 75 to 2003. And the second Arco Arena in Sacramento from 88 to 2016 all had the longest runs, 25 years or more than in NBA history. So that's again kind of a smaller list than I would have expected. Not something I thought like in depth, but I kind of think of arena life as being roughly 40 years, maybe. Obviously some of the great ones last longer than that, but yeah, it's pretty rare for more than a building to be used continuously for more than 25 years. You there?
Hey, sorry, you're breaking up a lot there. I mean, I'm sure it came across okay on recording. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I didn't really have.
Yeah, it was you were breaking up a lot on, but I mean, it's fine because we're recording it separately. But yeah, I couldn't really hear what you were saying that last time. So
okay. No, it's fine.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on. I can do it quick.
No, I was talking just about the last thing I said was just about it's rare for there to be an arena that lasts for more than 25 years that in the NBA. That's a rarer thing than I expected.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
So I finished my point. I have nothing more to say.
Okay, cool. I can kind of wrap that up. I'll kind of respond to your thing and then wrap that up. And then
okay.
Go from there. Okay. Yeah, definitely unique in that sense. And a lot of those ones, like you look at the Boston Garden, obviously drops in the 90s. The Forum, the Spectrum, a few of those. And I was kind of surprised the Summit lasted until 2003, but I guess that is the case. But yeah, I mean, it is unique that and that's sort of a thing again. Like, I mean, there was a lot of, in baseball, there's a lot of stadiums that hung around for a long time. And now we're starting to see kind of and I guess, again, we mentioned when the public's paying for it, yeah, sure, we'll get a new arena. Sure, that'd be great, and then sort of strong arm the city or whatever. But yeah, you're not seeing anybody really stick with an arena for much longer. And that's like we mentioned the Target Center a little bit earlier. I wonder when that's going to start being a grumble, even though it's probably a perfectly fine arena. I've never been, but like that one now, because it's just 28 years old, that someone's going to say, well, geez, we probably should get a new arena. Like, come on, we have to do it. So no one's really sticking with one for a while either. And really, I mean, if the public's going to pay for it, why would you? So right. It is kind of strange in that sense. But yeah, so it's unfortunate we're losing two of the old ones, but hey, maybe I don't know, the new Bucks one, maybe it'll be great and awesome, and maybe Chase Center will be cool too. So we'll see. But yeah, really getting down in the nitty gritty there with just MSG being like the only one that survived. But yeah, so you have 1968 for MSG, like you said, then 1990 for the Target Center, and then and then everything else is pretty new. So it's pretty unique.
Yeah, I wonder at some point when the next one will be the pressure. There's always going to be the team that might want to is going to use the threat of leaving to build a new one and stuff like that. So I would guess the next arena would be more likely to be built outside of a city to either lure a team or for an expansion team or what have you. But we'll see how that goes.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, Rich. Well. This was fun. Good look. This was your idea. I thought it went pretty well. So I thought it went really well. Actually, I take that back. So hope everyone enjoyed the show. And of course, you can find us at the Step Back at fansided.com. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, pretty much anywhere you want to listen to your podcasts. We are there. So if you like what we're doing, please give us a rating and a review. It helps people find the show and makes us feel good about ourselves, which is probably the more important thing. And until next time, thanks for listening. We'll be back again soon.